At all times of day and night, there is a different perspective. The light, sound and smell change as the winds blow, the sun shines and the skies rain. 20 years of living here, and the urban sprawl of England's northwest seems very, very distant. Carol and I love walking the dog around this golden mile. Of course, we are just part of the history of this mile. Yet out there on the water's edge, pricking and prodding in the mud flats, is the bird life that thrives regardless of man's intervention. Redshank, egret, heron, dunlin, curlew, avocet, the list goes on, simply doing what they have always done. We hope that regardless of man's intervention, the bird life will continue to do what they have always done. If we lose the birds, then what hope have we?
I am a survivor of the 1953 Great Floods, which claimed 59 lives on Canvey alone and left behind total devastation, which took months, if not years, to recover from. The seawall breached its banks due to a tidal surge coming along the east coast from the North Sea. It was rebuilt and raised after the floods and raised again following the building of the Thames Barrier, which created higher tides when closed. My dreams for the future would be that others than sea defences, the coastline doesn't change, as it hasn't in my lifetime, and that my great-grandchildren can enjoy the things I did as a child.
Yeah, so I wrote a poem about the caravan that I bought. In 2008, I moved in with my mum to care for her. We all moved in with my mum to care for her. So I thought, I'm just going to buy a van. I'll buy a van and then adapt it, and then we can just come down. So every Thursday we would come down and stay for the weekend, most weeks. And I used to come up onto the beach. It looks very different now. It used to be sand. So it's starting to change the environment, which is interesting.
I've walked along this stretch of the Stour Valley over many years, alone, with my dog, with friends and with family. A celebration walk, a coming to terms walk, a walk to clear the head, a walk to watch the birds, a walk to reconnect with the land, the water and my companions. The double aspect, the estuary to the left and the field woods to the right, with the spine of blackthorn hedge and oaks along the river's edge, is ingrained in my every step. The familiarity of each pace, avoiding rabbit holes, remembering the route where I once tripped, pausing to glance out at the gap in the hedge, perhaps a flask of tea. Reaching the bird hide, once the end point, as the dog wasn't allowed past the gate, was the goal. Now we can wander on through woodland and continuing paths, crossing over the railway line and away from the water. The hide has been resurrected many times, damaged, rebuilt, burnt, rebuilt again, and my hope is that it will endure as a pausing place, with its framed vistas of mud, water and the shore on the other side, a covert view of Suffolk from the county below, and of course, always the skies.
What amazing clouds, so high and dark. Mist like rain, rainbows and blue, dark and light, majestic and enormous, just fantastic. I stood and watched as glittering birds flew fast just above the water, changing direction, coming together and swinging apart. Brent geese, about 100 of them, seemed affected by the lively weather, chattering, and flew up in the sudden spontaneous eruptions of activity. Oyster catchers and godwit encouraged to do the same. A burst of commotion, just wonderful, exhilarating weather. Thurrock, saw them really near, birds appearing up. Lots of curlews, redshank, godwit, maybe dunlin, feeding on the mudflats. Sat for some time watching them through binoculars, amazingly beautiful. As I stood and stared at the drama in the sky, it brought me to tears, the phenomenal beauty of the world.
Stand on the sea wall that skirts the outer edge of Canvey Wick. You would be able to see the 2,000 invertebrate species that have recolonised the area since the industrial development was prematurely halted. Flora and fauna have since reclaimed the concreted land, in some ways like the Dutch grabbed the soil away from the estuary. Here, amongst the gas tanks and the nests of barely steaming pipes that snake around them. The flaming cat crackers, flare stacks by another name, left years ago. Offices and sheds look abandoned. There's only the lonely car with no sign of its driver. No one has seen them. But you could believe that tin plate robots emerge at night to litter pick and tinker with the oversized plumbing.
The verge of the main road is worn away. We're not yet at the broad, flat sailor's path proper, with its boardwalks and silence. After the tiny car park, the track turns to sand, scraping past brambles and coconut-scented gorse. Across an uncultivated field, there are views of the pewter mudflats within the breached river wall. But once, I saw a glowworm shining in the grass like glittered foil or a fallen star. At the end is the oak. In 2012, I planned to photograph a weekly log of a slowly turning year. I didn't even make it through spring. 16 photos of wintry branches portend the grief that marked the remaining months. Tony is first noticeably ill, April Fool's Day. Tony is rushed to hospital, Maunday Thursday. Tony dies, All Saints' Day. Time passes in drips, transfusions, clinics. My stubborn, impossible, wonderful husband, Tony Mudd, is killed by an equally stubborn leukemia. Unfortunately, consider the burden carried in those syllables. We were not privileged to have a child. I have no hopes the great-great-great-grandchildren were walking here. This oak was here before me. It will endure, like love, beyond my lifespan. We will be known forever through the tracks we leave behind. May my tracks be bright and bold in others' hearts, but faint on the landscape. Tony wrote, "It is not that we are made of stars, but that the stars are made of us. When I die and am buried, my dust will mix with the earth and grass, the trees and the flowers. I will be in the air and beyond the atmosphere in the universe and in the stars. I will be dust on the back of an albatross."